Hello again, everyone. Today we're going to do order of operations part 4. In this particular lesson, we'll be able to perform order of operations that include fractions, and everything is the same that we've learned previously. And so remember, when we do order of operations, okay, we want to go left to right, and parentheses is going to have high priority here. So everything that we see in parentheses will need to be done first. And inside those parentheses, we have addition and division. And division is going to come first, prior to any adding or subtracting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 3, and then we're going to write that over 1, and we're going to divide by 2/3. Okay? And the rules of division, okay, are going to be keep, change, flip, or KCF, be an easy way to remember, okay? And what that yields is that we keep the first fraction the same. I'm going to write the 1 under the 3, so you know that it's there. We're going to keep the first fraction the same, which is 3/1, change the division to multiplication, and then go ahead and do the reciprocal of the second fraction, or flip it. Okay, so now we don't have anything that we can cross cancel, so we could just go ahead and multiply straight across. Okay, and that is going to equal 3 times 3 is 9, and then 1 times 2 is 2. So we're going to simplify this to 9/2, okay? And then now we have everything inside here that we'll need to deal with as well, okay? So we want to stay inside the parentheses, so we have 8/5, okay? So, yeah, let me just use a different color. So we have 8/5 plus 9/2. And we want to find a common denominator. So the common denominator is going to be 10, because 10 is the absolute smallest number that 5 and 2 will go into. So in order to make that a 10, okay, we're going to times this by 2, but what we do to the bottom, we do to the top, okay? Because we agree that that LCD is going to be 10, okay? And in order to make the 2 a 10, we're going to times this by a 5. So we just kind of ask ourselves, what do we have to multiply 2 by in order to get the LCD of 10? Well, it'll be 5. But what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. And then you could just go ahead and rewrite this as 2 times 8 is 16 over 2 times 5 is 10 plus, and then 9 times 5 is 45 over 10, which can be combined as 16 plus 45 over 10, because the common denominator is identical now, so you can write it as one fraction, and this will give you 61 over 10. Okay, now there are many ways you can find the LCD, okay, so that's just one way, okay. If that is too difficult to understand right now, then you can go ahead and use what we call the butterfly method, okay. And I'll just show you really quickly. This is very common. A lot of instructors I've seen use this, and when I learned about it, I thought it was pretty interesting and a pretty simple way to add and subtract fractions without getting too overly involved with the common denominator. But the common denominator is good to know how to do that, to understand that, you know, there are several methods that I can teach you, but for this video, the butterfly method is pretty straightforward. Actually, it's, you know, we have 8/5 plus 9/2, and then what we do is we're going to go ahead and multiply these two together, okay, so it'll just be 8 times 2, and then since we're adding, we're going to add, and then we're going to do 9 times 5, okay, and we're going to do that in that exact order. Now when you multiply the 8 and 2, it doesn't matter what order as long as the 2 get multiplied, and then we add 9 times 5 or 5 times 9, okay, and then you take the two denominators and multiply them together. So when you simplify this, 2 times 8 is 16, 9 times 5 is 45, all over 10, and if you add those, you will still get 61 over 10, which is what we got earlier. So either way is correct. Just remember that this is your first round of multiplication, the 9 times 5 is the second, and then these two will be your third round of multiplication. So that is kind of how you look at it, okay? So when we go ahead and simplify this, this is just 12 minus 61 over 10. I'm going to go ahead and write that over 1. Let me go ahead and fix that. Okay, let me go ahead and just rewrite this a little bit neater. So we're going to write this as 12 over 1, take away 61 over 10. And now we just perform the last operation, which is a subtraction sign, because we cleared everything in the parentheses and got this, okay? So again, if you want to use the butterfly method, you can, or you can multiply the whole left fraction by 10, okay? So you choose what you want to use. If you decide to multiply both sides by 10, then you can say, okay, well, the common denominator is 10, so I need to multiply the top and bottom by that, because the LCD is going to be 10 here. 10 is the biggest number, or the smallest number that 1 and 10 go into. And then that just simplifies to 120, okay, over 10 minus 61 over 10, okay? And then since the common denominator is 10, we just write it over 10 and then perform 120 minus 61, and I believe that's 59, okay? If you don't want to do it that way, then you can just say, you can do it this way. You can say, okay, well, 12 minus 1, 61 over 10, and then you could just do the butterfly method like I showed you, multiply these two. That would be the first round of multiplication. That's going to equal, well, 12 times 10 is here, and then now we're subtracting, and then we're going to do 1 times 61, which would go here, all over 1 times 10. So remember, this is the second round, and then this is the third round. Okay, again, that's just going to simplify as, 120 minus 61 over 10. And when you subtract the two, you're going to get 59 over 10, which is the answer. And it's the same thing we got over here. Okay? From now on, I'm just going to pick one of the methods, so for the purpose of keeping the video shorter, but, if you know another method that you can find the common denominator, then you're welcome to use it. This is just a couple out of many other ways. But that is 59 over 10, okay? The next example, all right, is going to be 9 over 2 plus 5 over 2 divided by 11 over 2. And we want to go ahead and simplify everything in the parentheses, because order of operations tells us that we have to clear any grouping terms. Parentheses is one of those grouping terms that we're going to deal with. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. All right? So we have 9 over 2 plus 5 over 2. Now the good news about this is that the denominator is already identical, so the common denominator can just be written over 2, and then we're just going to go ahead and add 9 plus 5. And that's going to give us 14 over 2, which is going to reduce to 7. So we didn't really need to do any butterfly method. It's not necessary, and we don't have to worry about finding a common denominator because it was already 2. Both denominators are identical, so just add the numerators. Okay, anytime you have fractions with the same denominator, go ahead and perform the operation by adding or subtracting the numerators. In this case, we're adding because there's a plus sign. Okay, so we're just going to replace that with 7 divided by 11 over 2 divided by 1 over 5. And if we read this from left to right, we would do the first division here. Okay, so we'll do that here. We're going to write that as 7 over 1 divided by 11 over 2. Remember the method, keep, change, flip, and that is going to give you the first fraction, which is the same. We keep that the same, change the division to times, and then do the reciprocal of the second fraction. And then all you got to do is multiply straight across. There's nothing we can cross cancel, so we'll just proceed with the multiplication of 7 times 2, which is 14. 1 times 11 is 11. Okay? So when you divide or multiply fractions, you do not need a common denominator. All right? And then now we just want to divide it by 1/5. Okay? So we'll do that here. 14 over 11 divided by 1/5. Okay, so you remember the rules, keep, change, flip. So this is going to give me the first fraction, keep that the first fraction, change the division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. All right. And nothing cross cancels here. So, and 14 times 5 is 70. 1 times 11 is 11. So the final answer is going to be 70 over 11. All right, and that's what this is. Okay. All right, let's do another one. And remember that this is an exponent, and everything in the parentheses needs to be simplified so we can get it down to one number so we can evaluate it. So inside the parentheses, we're going to go left to right. That means we're going to add the 2/3 plus 1. Okay? Or you can just add 2/3 and 1/3 because the denominators are identical. So that would be easier, actually. All right, if we just go ahead and add these two. In this case, the denominators are the same. So when you have 2/3, I apologize. Plus 1/3, the denominators are the same, so we could just add 2 plus 1, okay, and just get 3 over 3. And then 3 over 3 is 1. Okay, so what the exponent reduces is to 1 plus 1. Because we need to add the other 1 to it, right? And that's going to give you 5 squared, which will equal 5 times 5, which will result 25. Okay? And so that one was a pretty easy one to do, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and do another one. And rules of order of operations. We want to do with everything in the parentheses first. Okay, so when we do that over here, you have 11 over 1 minus 4/3, and if you go ahead and do the butterfly method, you can 11 times 3, okay, so that would be 11 times 3, then we're taking away 1 times 4, okay, so 1 times 4 all over 1 times 3, okay? So your first round of multiplication is, here, I'm having a hard time writing in this corner here. The first round of multiplication is 11 times 3, the second round is 1 times 4, and then the third round is 1 times 3. Okay, so that's going to equal, okay, 33 minus 4 over 3, which will give me 29 over 3. All right? Okay, so this is going to simplify to 29 over 3. And then when we read it from left to right, we're going to do the division first, because we said multiplication is interchangeable. And once you clear all your parentheses, exponents, and you're just left with multiplication and division, then those are interchangeable. You do whatever comes first from the left, okay? So here we have 1/2 divided by 9 over 4. And the rules for that is keep, change, flip. So that just becomes 1/2 times 4 over 9. Remember, keep the first fraction identical, change the division to times, reciprocate or do the reciprocal of the second fraction. And then we can cross cancel here. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. And then we just multiply straight across of whatever we have left over. This is going to be 1 times 2 now on top. 1 times 2 is 2. And then, of course, 1 times 9 is 9. Okay? So we're going to replace that with 2 over 9 times 29 over 3. Okay? And here we just multiply straight across. 2 times 29, okay, is going to give you 58. And then over 27, because 9 times 3 is 27, and then you have your final answer. Okay? All right. And we could also do another one. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And then we'll have 1/2 to the third plus 3 over 2 divided by 2/3. Okay, so order of operations tells me I need to do parentheses first. Parentheses first, but there's an exponent attached to that parenthesis, so we need to evaluate that. All right, 1/2 to the third power, it really is 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, 3 times. And then you just multiply all the numbers across, okay? So, we multiply all the 1s and multiply all the 2s together, okay? All right, so 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. I need to pause for a moment. Okay, excuse me. So 1/8 is going to be replaced with this, okay? So we clear the parentheses. Now we just go left to right. Notice that we have addition, which we do not do before multiplication or division. So we need to do this first. All right. So when we do that, you have 3/2 divided by 2/3. So when we do keep, change, flip, okay, then we have 3/2 times 3/2. Then we just multiply straight across. And then that's going to give me 9/4, because we're doing 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay? Again, you don't need common denominators when you multiply and divide fractions. All right? So now it just becomes 1/8 plus 9/4, because that's what we got when we divided those two fractions. And then now it's just a matter of go ahead and simplifying. So if you have 1/8 plus 9/4, if you want to just find the common denominator, it would be 8, and then you times the whole right fraction by 2. Okay, but if that confuses you, then just do the butterfly method for now. And I will do a separate video when finding the common denominators and greatest common factor, the lowest common denominator. I'll do that in a separate video. Okay. So 1 times 4 goes there. Now we're adding, and then we're going to do 9 times 8. Sorry. And then you times the two denominators together. So then just this becomes 4 plus 9 times 8 is 72. 8 times 4 is 32. Okay. And then when you simplify that, that just becomes 76/32. Okay. And if you take both of those numbers, and you got to think about a number, what is the biggest number that goes into both of these? You are going to get 4. Okay. So remember, 4 goes into 76 19 times. Okay, 19 times. And then 4 into 32 is going to be 8. Okay, so your final answer is going to be 19/8. Okay? All right, so that concludes a little demo on how to do order of operations with fractions. I hope that this video was helpful, and thank you for watching.